Hello, dear soul, and welcome to the Lightbearer's Library. In today's journal entry, I would like to talk about how minimalism is not for everyone. On this channel, I like to talk about personality type because I think it's such a wonderful way of realizing that each of us have a different way of looking at the world. And so it helps us to be more empathetic and compassionate for those who see the world in a different way than us, and to help love ourselves and to say, no, I look at the world differently. I don't have to be or do or value the things that, my family does, or, my friends or those people over there. So I think it's a helpful way. And, over the past decade or more, the idea of minimalism has been at the forefront of our society. The minimalists, they've had their documentary, and, there's lots of articles online and magazines, whatever, that sort of pushes the idea that minimalism is what we should all be striving for. And while I think for many people minimalism is absolutely a must in their lives to have a calm a calm mind, and to feel like they have control over their space and their life. And it could be that, people who, it's kind of like if somebody's maybe an alcoholic, not having alcohol in the house is really good. If you have a problem with stuff and shopping and being overwhelmed by that, then it's, maybe it's a good practice to be a minimalist. It helps you to focus on other things of value. But I think that there are some personality types out there where it's absolutely not a thing for them. They shouldn't take it on. It would be a damaging kind of thing for them to partake. And I've been thinking about this because as I've been exploring personality type, there are, in the type, when we talk about type, Carl Jung talked about eight cognitive functions that we all have, and realizing that thinking about introverted sensing, which is one of the eight, is a form of sensing that lots of people around us have, and I myself have it a bit lower. It's not one of my top two functions, cognitive functions that I use, but I have it within my top four. And so it's gotten me to thinking about how I use it. And my mom has it in her top two. And I've always kind of, pushed for a little bit of minimalism towards her. And I've strived to be a little bit more minimalist because my husband, who's an INFJ personality, for him, minimalism really works for him. It helps him to have a clear mind. It helps him to make, to not spend a lot of time making decisions about, when you only have 7 or 8 shirts, you're not spending a lot of time contemplating which shirt to wear, right? It's like, do I want to wear this white t-shirt or this white t-shirt? It's like, okay, they're all the same. However, I realized over, a decade of being with him that it's not for me, and trying to be a minimalist is actually being it's not a nice thing to do to myself, and it's not a nice thing to put onto others. So I'll talk a little bit about introverted sensing. It's about so if you think about extroverted sensing, first of all, it's kind of like, what you see with your senses, your eyes, and you feel with your hands, and you taste with your tongue. And it's kind of right now, right here, what's going on now. And introverted sensing is also a concrete function. So it's about what's happening here and now. But it's about perceiving with a lens through past experience. So it's concrete and down to earth, and it is about, some people talk about it as memory, and So why I was thinking about this in connection to minimalism is that with this introverted sensing cognitive function, there's a an enjoyment of reliving and remembering past experiences. So for example, if you're out for a walk in the autumn, which is what time of year it is now, it's like the smell in the air of the leaves falling, will bring back memories of other fall days in your past memories, and or it will start to remind you of things like, oh, it's the time of Thanksgiving, or whatever it is. It brings back all the past memories. And so having photos for these types is really, they love having photographs around on the walls or photo albums, so that it helps them to relive and remember those wonderful favorite memories. Also, so I was talking about smells, and a smell, like a sensory smell, reminding them of, say they walk past a restaurant and a certain smell of a dish, like a cinnamon buns or something, and it instantly takes them to a time when, their mom made cinnamon buns and it was snowy outside, and, like they're just in another kind of past memory. So having things around them, like they tend to wear perfumes, and it makes them feel comfortable. And then if you think about maybe having kitchen tools and accessories to make their favorite dishes that remind them of certain things in the past. I know my mom likes to make my grandma's cookie recipes, right? So for her, having lots of kitchen utensils and everything that you could need to make any kind of dish that brings back a memory or something. So and of course my mom has like boxes of recipes from our family relatives, and all sorts of old photos and albums. It's also they oh, and that reminds me of, so there's also a tendency to keep heirlooms that are handed down. My mom's got all the china and the teacups and the old dressers that were, back then well built, and that were my great grandparents. And so there's a lot of things in the life of someone who has introverted sensing, and those things bring them so much meaning and joy and a sense of belonging in this world. And it's not like all the stuff is not overwhelming to them. It's something that nurtures their personality type and nurtures their being and allows them to fully express themselves as, their individual puzzle piece. And people who use introverted sensing, especially in their top two functions, tend to be well organized and very orderly. So even though they might have a lot of stuff, everything is in its place. Everything is organized and orderly. And so for them, having maybe more stuff than most people doesn't cause them, whatever feelings, that minimalists might be trying to ward off. So I think recognizing that there are some people that minimalism is not for. And so yeah, I think with them, they're appreciating and looking after these things. And I think that's all I was thinking about, is just that when we're, again, always looking at the world and we're looking at a trend that's happening out there in the world, it's good to just reflect on, is this, before we jump in to follow a trend, or we ourselves take on a trend and then we try and, push it on to our parents or our siblings or our friends. It's kind of taking into account their personality and asking, is this trend something that would be beneficial for them, right? It might be beneficial for us in terms of, whatever the trend is, and we feel like it's really helping us, and, share that with people. That's wonderful. But to kind of like push it on people and say, you should do this, or this is the way of living, or, is, I think, misplaced, because everyone has a different way of looking at the world. And so, yeah, that's just my thought for today. Let me know if you've experimented with minimalism, or if you are totally against minimalism and you're like, no, I love my things, and or if you've played with it like me. I've played with minimalism, and I think like I've gotten rid of some things that held a lot of meaning, or held some meaning for me, and are kind of not replaceable necessarily. It's fine to get rid of stuff, like to have a spring clean or whatever, and but it's kind of knowing when things hold meaning and might be regretting getting rid of those things, or yeah. So let me know if there's been things that you've regretted letting go of, or if it's been really liberating to get rid of things and live a minimalist life. I would love to hear from you. And if you've made it this far, please subscribe to the Lightbearer's Library, and I will see you soon. XOX, Kate.